Alright everyone, welcome back to Tales from the Albums. This is the podcast where I go through and pick some of the most important albums of my life. I know people are like, well, why is an album important to you? Well, music's important to me, so I go through, and really the only qualifications I have is it's got to be something that's, hits me, obviously. At least half the songs have to be songs that I like. I prefer it to be a lot more. With this album that I'm doing today is every single one I like. We started off with Randy Travis's The Storms of Life, one of the most perfect albums ever released and really a turning point in country music. The one we're doing today is, let me see, sorry about the stupid glare on there, it's from the viewfinder of the camera, but it's the very first Garth Brooks album. I actually own several copies of it. Not to mention have it on my computer and the limited series, which I'll talk about a little bit of what that is if you don't know. But anyway, it's Garth Brooks' very first album, self-titled. A lot of something that I don't know if they do it nowadays anymore. I don't pay attention to nowadays music, but it used to be when you come out with your very first album, it's usually self-titled. And this was, like I said, no exception. Came out in 1989. He's one of those famed class of 89 artists, right there with Clint Black, Travis Tritt, and Alan Jackson. I'll give a little bit of facts on here, so I'll be looking over to the side, but I'll just be giving you my thought of the album. First thing, I never actually owned the album until early 2000s. It came out, like I said, it came out in 89. I just never was able to own the album before then. My first experience listening to the whole thing through was actually my music teacher in 6th grade. We were doing, what was the play? I think it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. We were listening to the music, and it was like you study the actual play, and then I think it was Andrew Lloyd Webber did it, and then listen to the soundtrack in class and discuss it and that type of stuff. It was a really cool class. I actually liked it. But I noticed he had some CDs on his desk, and one of them was that, and I was like, well, it wasn't a CD, it was a CD, because I had a CD player at the time. I was just fixated on it, because, huge Garth Brooks fan, and he, through, just getting to know us in class, he knew that I loved Garth Brooks, so he let me borrow it for a weekend, and it was, great to listen to that whole album, because I'd only heard the singles before. Never actually got to hear the album. But like I said, I bought my first copy of it in the early 90s from CD Game Exchange in Norwood, which is no longer there, sadly. I don't know if the one in, where's that at? I can't think of where it's at. Is it Clifton, or? It's up there by the VA hospital in Cincinnati, if you know where I'm talking about. Sorry about this weird lighting. Anyway, I got sunburned. But, CD Game Exchange was a great place to buy music. I know this video's not about that, but I mean, you could use CDs, games, movies, game systems. But anyway, I bought a lot of stuff from there. Over half of what I got in my collection came from there, and the other half from Goodwill. Very few albums I bought new, but I have bought some. But anyway, this album came out, like I said, 1989. It's been certified diamond, which platinum is 1 million copies. Diamond is 10 million. It made it to number 13 on Billboard's top 200 pop charts, which showed how big of an album it is. And before anybody starts, I know we get the whole everything about Garth Brooks from he's woke this, or they suddenly don't like his music because of political views, which I never get. Not to get too sidetracked, but I never get that whole. There's artists that are on both sides of the stupid party lines of politics, and I don't really care what their views are. It's the music. What's the music sound like? Anyway, or they say he's too crossover, or he tried to be too pop. But even the most diehard I hate Garth Brooks people always his first album was good. But anyway, enough of that. It really was a great album, great first album. If you don't have a really good first album, you usually don't make it to a second one. And his albums just progressively got better. I believe his third one, Ropin' in the Wind, was his best album ever, which I definitely will cover on here. Be covering a lot of Garth Brooks stuff on here. But I said number 13 on the Billboard Top 200 and made it to number 2 on the top country albums. Didn't make it to number 1 on that, but he did have some number 1s. When I do these, I go through the track listing in order, and then I'll point out, which song was what single it was and how it did. Garth Brooks is one of the first ones I've noticed, and he really talked about this a lot. If you've got his anthology series, which is his books, and each one comes with the CDs. That's another one they say, oh, he releases the same music over and over again. Well, in the books, the music just goes with the books. Yeah, I probably have CDs with like a couple songs that are on like 12 different CDs. And not buying the books for the CDs, although they're a bonus. I mean, what other artist would come out with like a 5 or 6 book series and put 5 or 6 CDs with each one? It's it's a bonus. You're not paying extra for it. But anyway, I always feel like I got to defend Garth Brooks because so many people are just talking crap about him constantly, and it annoys me because people just forget how great his music is. But anyway, like I said, he was one of the first ones that I noticed, and like he's talked about before a lot, that the track listing and order isn't just random, songs thrown together. He puts it in that way for an order, and the very last song on each album is the most important to him. Whether it's, whatever the message is, it's the one that's on there the most important, because, the thing they leave you with. So, I'll go through this by track listing. I've talked before, when I listen to music, I usually put it on random, so I don't usually listen to it in order. The only way I ever do that is if I'm listening to the tape, which I still have tapes. I actually have the tape version of this too out in the van, because it has a tape player and a CD player in it, so it's got a tape player, why not? You can find tapes at Goodwill for $1, which is really cool. But anyway, I'll go through this by track listing, and then I'll talk about the limited series after I go through this. But the very first song on the album to kick it off is a kind of a high energy song called Not Counting You. It was actually released as his 3rd single. It was released January 8th, 1990, and went to number 2. And this song is not talked about enough. He never puts it on any of his compilations. It didn't make any of his greatest hits, but it was, did I say number 2? Or was it number... Sorry, I'm going to the list to see here. Yeah, number 2. And there's a lot of... He's had a lot of songs that haven't been number 1 that he's, like We Shall Be Free never made it to number 1 because of the controversial subject matter, which is stupid. We'll get into that when I talk about the album that came from The Chase. But it was just, I don't know why this song doesn't get enough recognition. I remember I did have this album. Actually, I just remember, I lied to you all. First time I actually owned it was on a recorded tape in the early 90s. I remember this because those the old tape players where you could transfer one to the other, and you could do it at regular speed, but you could also do it at chipmunk speed. If you know what I'm talking about there, the chipmunk voice. It's high-speed dubbing. If you do it at that speed, it plays it, but it sounds like the chipmunks are singing it. But when it's actually transferred over, it sounds normal. But anyway, I'd recorded this at my grandpa's house because I think one of my cousins had it. Might have been the CD to copy to tape, because you could actually do that too. You could copy a CD to tape too. Tapes were great. You could copy from another tape, from a CD, and from the radio. Well, I've done all 3. But anyway, the opening 2 or 3 lines of this song, I actually recorded myself singing over it, and then the rest of the album plays. I remember listening to this for a few years, however long I owned the tape, and I remember just being annoyed that I did that and I ruined the album by putting my... and it was me singing like a 8, 9, 10-year-old, whatever I was, stupid squealy voice ruined the tape. But anyway, yeah, Not Counting You is like it's a song. It's one of those tongue-in-cheek songs. It's like, I've never had a heartbreak except for you, so I don't count. If we don't count you, none of the stuff's ever happened to me. But anyway, he wrote it himself, and which, by the way, he always gets, oh, you never write the songs, or you just happen to be in the room. That's another one I seen on the comments. It's like, he just happened to be in the room, so he put his name on the song. Whatever. Check out his books. You'll find out all the stuff about the songs. Again, I'm trying not to justify him, but anyway, yeah, like I said, it went to number 2, and it's never talked about as much, and it's a really good song. I believe he might have started the his very first NBC concert special. This is Garth Brooks, the one he did from I think it was Reunion Stadium or something in Texas. It wasn't, or arena, not the stadium. Yeah, the first one was from just a regular arena or a stadium. Arena is the football, stadium is a stadium. Anyway, enough of that. That was his first one on there, and forever I thought that was his first single, but it actually wasn't. But yeah, it went to number 2, but never, I don't think I've ever seen him play it like recently. Like, you'll see clips of concerts on YouTube. I wonder if he still, would still play this song, because I've seen a ton of his concerts and TV specials, and it's only been on that very first one. Great song. But the second one was written by him, Larry Bastian, and his wife at the time, Sandy, which of course they're not married anymore. He's married to Trisha Yearwood now. But this one's called "I've Got a Good Thing Going." It's a stone cold country song. Wasn't a single, but it's it's like a double meaning, where you think you hear the title like "I got a good thing going," things are going great, but no, his good thing is going as in his woman's leaving him. The good thing is her, and it's going as in leaving, not going on. Great song there. Like I said, never was a single, but I swear any of these songs could have been released as singles. There's a couple that I don't know if radio would have played, but that one I think would have gotten some play, especially once he got the ball rolling with his early songs. I think after Friends in Low Places came out, he could have put out him singing the phone book off key in the bathroom or something, and it would have got play. The third song is a big one for him, If Tomorrow Never Comes. It was actually the second song released from the album, the first one with a video to it, and it was released August 21st, 1989. And I should say that the album was actually, I forgot to give the detail, was actually released April 12th, which is actually a month after his first single came out. Because usually they will release a song and then the album is usually how it goes, to get built up for the album. If they just release an album, especially the first album, without a song first, people aren't gonna, who is this? It was recorded between late 87 to early 88, and then, like I said, put out early 89. It's 33 minutes in length, and produced by the great Alan Reynolds and released on Capitol Records. I forgot to give that stuff at the beginning. This is only my second one of this. I'm still trying to figure out how to format it all. But anyway, back to the third song, If Tomorrow Never Comes, written by Garth Brooks and Kent Blasey, which I believe I'd heard him talk about before about his ex-wife Sandy had either written part of the song or just mentioned something that turned into the song. Thought it used to be credited to her. I don't know. But anyway, it's one of those songs where he's examining, if tomorrow never comes, if he died, would the people in his life know, especially his wife, know that he loved him? And the video is a really good video. It's got his wife in it. I believe it's got one of their kids. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's just, him just like playing the song at home. Like the very first video of his was, from the second song, and it was a massive hit. He still plays it today. It's one of the greatest songs ever written, really. And again, he co-wrote that and didn't just happen to be in the room. Anyway, next one, number 4, is Every Time That It Rains. Another one that wasn't a single, but is a great song. Written by him, again, Ty England, which was his lead guitar player. Well, he played electric guitar, not take that back. He played acoustic guitar, but he was like, one of the very important band members of him early on. He ended up going on to have a singles career. He didn't really do that much, that big, even though Garth Brooks, I believe, produced his first album, his first one or first two, but didn't do nearly as good as I thought he would. Had some great songs though, and also, but he co-wrote this song, and also another guy named Charlie. I'm trying to read this. Charlie Steffel, I think. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry, but it's a story song. You got country music, you got the songs like I've just mentioned. They're not really about, like, I guess there's a difference between, like, let's say Not Counting You, where it's singing about a woman, so it is a story of some sorts. But Every Time That It Rains is one of those that you could almost picture like a mini movie to it. It's basically it's him, I guess, as a singer. It don't really specify what he does, but he's like stuck at an airport, and it's all the flights are delayed because it's raining so much. So he goes to this diner, and there's nobody there but the waitress, and then him and the waitress get together, and he thinks about her every time it rains. And then he went back to see her again, but it just wasn't there anymore, I guess. It don't really say whether he was with somebody and cheating on him with this woman, or just it was a one-time thing. Anyway, he still thinks about her every time it rains, and it's one of those story songs. Everybody probably got something like that, even if it's not about raining. Anytime, I don't know, if you have good memories of being with somebody at like a football game or something, every time you see football you think of her or him, or one of those type songs. But number 5 is Alabama Clay. The first one on here, not written by Garth. It's co-written by Larry Cordell and Ronnie Scaife. I'm not doing good pronouncing these names, I guarantee. But it's another story song. It's about this. This is a theme that's been in country a few times. This is one of the best examples of it. It's about a guy that he was born in obviously Alabama Clay. Working the farms and stuff, and he wants to move to the big city because he don't want to work the farm his whole life. But he had a girlfriend. He left her behind, and ended up finding out that his girlfriend was pregnant. And he was getting tired of living in the city. He realized he did miss so it says in the song, he went to raise his family on the farm. So he went back to her, realized that the big city wasn't what it was cracked up to be. There's definitely a few examples of that. One at the top of my head, Toby Keith's Upstairs Downtown. That's a sort of like a song like that. Thinking of another one that won't come to me. It's I believe it's a female song about, I can't think of it right now, but I'll probably think of it later and it'll be too late. Anyway, number 6 is his very first song, actually, Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old. And it only went to number 8 because it was his first song. If that song would have came out later, it would have easily been a number 1, because it's still one of his most well-known songs. Even today, he plays at every concert. It was co-written by him and Randy Taylor. Just from reading the anthology, I remember the story about them writing this, because he wrote this song. Because I've actually got a thing on here that I downloaded. I won't say where I found it, but somewhere. But it's him giving like a concert in Oklahoma, like one of those before he was even signed type things, where he was just playing in a bar. But he sang this song, so he had it for a while. But he never the line in there about worn out tape of Chris Ledoux. He'd actually never even heard of Chris Ledoux at the time, which, if you don't know who Chris Ledoux is, he was a rodeo rider who ended up becoming a country singer. And this song actually, really got him looked at as being famous, because he was, he wasn't making any big hits, because, his stuff wasn't really Nashville stuff. It was just like, it was cowboy songs, basically, and stuff like that, and it really wasn't being paid attention to by radio. But Garth didn't even know who he was at the time, but because of the song, he actually became good friends with him, and, lifelong friendship there, just because his writing partner, Randy Taylor, knew... by the way, it's not the same Randy Taylor as in the kid off of Home Improvement, Tool Time. That was just a character name. That's not the same guy. Jonathan Taylor Thomas didn't write the song. But, and it's a simple message. Just, it's basically about a rodeo rider, which is, Garth has a lot of songs having to deal with the rodeo, including one literally called Rodeo. But but it's about a rodeo rider, but it's really a message we all can take from, especially me these days. I'm much too young to feel this damn old. Even though I'm in my 40s, I still feel older than that. And I felt this in my 20s and my 30s. I felt this when I was a kid when I heard it. I was like, yeah. I remember when the word came on, I wasn't like, oh, it's the D word. You can't say the D word. Damn. I wonder if that caused much controversy, like having to read that on air, because it technically is what they consider a cuss word. But anyway, number 7 is Very good song. Cowboy Bill was my dad's very favorite Garth Brooks song. Written by Larry Bastian and Ed Berghoff. It's a story about this guy that lives in a town, and he's like an old west type guy. You know, it's supposed to be set in modern day, I guess, or maybe back in the, I don't know, 50s or 60s, something like that. Anyway, he would tell these kids all these stories. By the way, you can't do that these days. You can't have kids going over to some old guy's house and have him tell stories, because you can't trust people these days. But that's another topic. But this is back when you could trust people. And yeah, they didn't know his full name. They just called him Cowboy Bill. And he would tell about all these tales, and the parents of the kids would be like, you know, stay away from him. He's just lying about all. He's making all this stuff up. But the kids always believed. But one day he ended up dying, and they found a letter. He said he was clutching a badge that said Texas Ranger on it, because he was a Texas Ranger. And he had a letter that said, you know, basically saying that Texas was proud, that, you know, it was like a letter of commendation or something like that. You know, come to find out that Cowboy Bill wasn't lying about all this stuff. And, you know, and now all the parents know that he was a hero too. Great song. Like I said, my dad's very favorite song. Then we got Nobody Gets Off in This Town, co-written by Larry Bastian again, and Dwayne Blackwell. And I believe... I believe Dwayne Blackwell was one of the co-writers on Friends in Low Places on the second album. But it's another double metaphor. The first one is Nobody Gets Off in This Town, as in like this is trains don't even slow down. It gives all the just reason why nobody likes this town. The high school colors are brown. I think one of the last lines is, I go for a drink but the county's dry. As in Nobody Gets Off in This Town is like gets off the train, gets off the bus, nobody wants to go. But also, I don't mean like nobody gets off as in, you can take that meaning for what it, you know, it can mean 2 or 3 different things there. But, you know, basically, this town sucks, basically, is what this song is. Number 1 is an old song by Jack Clement called I Know One, where it's like, if you're looking for a fool that'll, you know, take you back, I know one, as in, you know, basically saying, you know, no matter what this woman's done or her reputation is, I'm gonna be with her. I know how it's gonna end, but I'm a fool anyway. You know, one of those great songs from the 60s. Jack Clement was a great artist from back then, and the only one on this that I believe was somebody else's song first. And then he ends the song with his the last single from the song, or from the album, was The Dance, and it was released April 30th, 1990. Of course, and getting ready to release the second album, No Fences, which had the Friends in Low Places on it. But the very last song, and like I said, and Garth to this day says it's his favorite song he's ever done, the most important song of his career. It had a video, and it had a lot of images in it from people that had died, and the song is basically about I should say it was written by Tony Arata. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but he's done a lot of Garth Brooks' really important songs. But it's basically saying, you know, it's a love song at heart, or a love gone wrong song. But saying, you know, no matter, you know, I know how it. If I would have known how it turned out, I still would have done this, because it's in the point of view of remembering a dance they had. I don't know whether it was their wedding dance, you know, the first dance after they're married, or their very first dance, but it was saying, you know, seeing how it all would have ended, I still would have had the dance with you. And he took it a little farther in the video to include people like Martin Luther King, JFK, you know, some other more well-known people, basically saying, you know, if they would have known how, you know, their lives would have ended, they probably would have done the same things that even caused their lives to end. I can't remember, there was a rodeo guy in it too. I can't remember his name. But, you know, it's basically saying, you know, and at the end he actually explains, you know, the video is like, you know, it's a love gone wrong song, but to me it's more than that, and it really is. And it was like, this is his most important song to him. not my favorite song of his, but it's a great song. It's definitely one I don't skip. Like I said, I don't skip any of these songs. They're all great. One of my very favorite albums ever, and it's not even my favorite Garth Brooks album. I don't even know if it might be my second favorite, but I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, that is Garth Brooks, the self-titled album. Oh, the limited series was a series. That's where he said they started getting money hungry or trying to drive up the artificially inflate the sales. But he was convinced by Walmart to release this limited series of his first 6 albums, all released in a box set, and each album had another song on it that was like written for that album but never got out on the album. So it was like, you buy this, you not only get the first 6 albums in full with a nice book, and it's all together in a case with like limited series on it, but you get 6 extra songs, which is really cool. And the one that was released for this one was called Uptown Down Home Good Old Boy, written by Dwayne Blackwell and Earl Bud Lee, who wrote Friends in Low Places. And this is a funny story song. It's kind of funny, but it's about this rodeo guy, surprise there, that like he was like famous, and he ended up breaking his back and couldn't do the rodeo anymore. But he like basically sold his image to like this company that was like selling Western wear and stuff. So he became rich, but he's basically the same old guy he was. He's down at the bar. He's just rich now. It's one of those songs that was never going to be a single or anything. And like I said, it didn't even make the album, but a great song and another one I wouldn't skip. So if whether I'm listening to the regular version or the limited series, still great album. I guess my final thoughts on this album are just what a way to come out of the blocks. Just like with Alan Jackson's Here in the Real World, Travis Tritt's Country Club, and Clint Black's Killin' Time album, which, by the way, all three of those will definitely be on this list, I'm pretty sure, at some point. But they're along with this album, were the class of '89 that really got country to skyrocket. And I've talked about it on my Tales from the '90s podcast all the time, how great those 4 are, and then all the ones that would come after them on the wake of their success. And really, it got country popular. Country music was at the Super Bowl, the halftime show, doing the national anthem. Garth did the national anthem. Can't remember what year it was. It might have been 90. Was it 92 or 93? I think was the Super Bowl, the country Super Bowl. Now we get what we get with it, but that's another story. But anyway, I guess my final thoughts on this album are just it's a must listen to if you're a Garth Brooks fan, if you're a country music fan. You're not going to find anything pop on this. You can listen to any song on here, and there's no way you can say, oh, he's trying to go pop, or this ain't country enough for me. It's, there's steel guitar, there's fiddle, and there's country lyrics, but, his singing is top-notch. Just really the perfect album. I can't say nothing else about it. Just the perfect album. And yet it's still not even my favorite Garth Brooks album. But anyway, I've been rambling on almost a half hour. If you got a suggestion for an album you want me to do on here, let me know. I don't know what the next one will be. Again, it's got to fit my qualifications. So it can't just be one you like and I don't like it or something. But maybe if it's a style of music I like and an artist I like and I've never heard the full album, maybe I'll listen to it, and then after listening to it, maybe I'll add it to it. But like I said, I don't know what it'll be next time, but thank you for joining me, and we'll see you then.